Parents, thank you so much for joining us for today's Parent Talk. We are so excited to have Dr. Walker Moore with us today. He is going to give us tips and strategies on how to give our children significant tasks in order to create responsible adults. I can't wait to hear from him. Get out your pen and paper. Here we go. Dr. Moore is an internationally known youth culture expert, author, and conference speaker. He founded All Star Ministries, a nonprofit organization that equips students for life by discipling and enabling them to serve others around the world. He is the author of Rite of Passage Parenting, 4 Essential Experiences to Equip Your Kids for Life. And that's the book that you can pick that up on Amazon. It is so good. And he and his wife, Kathy, live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they have 2 adult children. How awesome is that? So he is extra equipped to give us these great messages with his 2 adult children. So Dr. Moore, we thank you so much for being here, and let's get started.
Well, good evening, and I'm so excited about being with you all tonight, and because I haven't spoken in 9 weeks. It's been a long dry spell, because I'm usually every week traveling and speaking and engaging with people, and so I'm excited to be with you all, and I've never done a Zoom conference like this before, so you just kind of pray along with me as I try to teach tonight, and that we can have God just visit us. Now, I have 2 grown children, but I have 3 grandchildren. We call them the Yadahooties, okay? We have Titus the Honorable, who's 6, and Cohen the Good-Hearted, who's 4, and River Walker Moore, he's River the Peacemaker. So we have 3 grandchildren that were in our lives, and we get to see them about every other day, and they're a lot of fun. But when I was writing my book, The Rite of Passage Parenting, because I wrote it, I've been teaching young people for about 10 years about this time, and I had a problem because all the young people went through my youth ministry. The problem they had as a freshman, they had the same problem in college. And I did not see a transformation in their lives. I saw some good things they did, but overall, the same character they did not have a transformation in their lives as they were going through our ministry. So I went on a search and began to look and pray and seek and ask God to show me what was wrong with this generation. And I found out we had a cultural shift that all of a sudden what used to be normal and natural and teach our children responsibility and equip them to be self-reliant were gone. And we had to go back and put 4 essential things back in our lives. So when I was writing the book, the parents, my son came to me, Caleb, and he's my weird son. You all have a weird son, weird child in your family? I mean, yeah. I have 2 sons. I have Jeremiah. He's the perfect child, made good grades, and Caleb is the one who tested everything. But Caleb, when he was 5 years old, came home one day carrying a stack of free apartment guides. We lived up 1 block from a grocery store, and they have a little display there, and they have free apartment guides for those who need apartments. Well, he came home carrying a whole stack of them. And I said to him, why are you carrying those? He said, I'm going to sell them. I said, what do you mean sell them? They're free apartment guides. He goes, but Dad, I said, listen, I know you're just young. You can't read very well yet. The word free means you don't have to pay anything for them. So I need you to take back this, but Dad. I said, now listen, okay, there's people who need the free apartment guide. So you can't sell a free apartment guide. And he goes, but Dad. I said, what? He said, this is my second load. I've been selling for 25 cents a piece to our next door neighbors. And he pulled out his pocket a whole handful of quarters, and he's been selling free apartment guides in our neighborhood to homeowners for 25 cents a piece. Now, who knew that you could sell free apartment guides? But that's the kind of kid he is. So he came to us and he said, what are you doing, Dad? I said, I'm writing a book. He said, why are you writing a book? I said, to make bad parents good parents. He said, duh, Dad. He said, bad parents don't read books. And also I realized something. The people who are listening tonight and people who read on parenting and study about how to be a better parent, you are already good parents. I'm not here tonight to tell you anything that makes you feel like you're a bad parent. In fact, you're a good parent because you're on this conference tonight. That tells me a lot about you. It tells me about your love for your kids, your desire to see them grow, and you want them to become the best that they can be. So I hope tonight that we can give you some handles and some tools to help you to get a grip on what's going on today, the transition and the cultures and everything else. So to start out, I want to ask you a question. And all you need to do is nod your head on this one, okay? Did Jesus ever sin? Yes? No, okay? Everybody go on, no. Jesus, well, if he didn't sin, I want to read a passage of scripture to you. And I want you to listen to this because I want my children to be like Jesus. Now, how many want your child to be like Jesus? Don't you want him to grow up to learn to walk and be like Jesus? Okay, let's now hang on to that. In Luke, the 2nd chapter, in verse 41, it says, now as his parents went to Jerusalem every year, the feast of Passover, and when he became 12, they went there according to the custom of the feast. And in verse 43, as they returned and spent the full number of the day, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but his parents were unaware of it. Now, what does it mean when your parents are unaware of it? I bet there's things that in your life that you have not told your mom and dad. I bet there's things you did in high school. There's things you've done in college. There's probably secrets that you've kept from your mom and dad. Jesus decided to stay back in Jerusalem on his own, and he did not tell his mom and dad. Jesus dumped his parents. That's what it says. He dumped his parents. Though his parents weren't aware of it. They supposed to be in the caravan and went a day's journey and began looking for among the relatives and acquaintance. So what happened now, Mary and Joseph, because they're there at the Feast of Passover, they said there's probably about 3 million people in the city of Jerusalem. And I just came out of Jerusalem a while back, and I can't imagine 3 million people packed into that little place. And they're walking along, and they walked a day's journey. Now, I don't know when the last time you walked a day's journey, but I have many times. I've been a missionary. I've traveled the world. I became the first person ever to carry a cross up Mount Kilimanjaro to 19,345 feet. I've done a lot of walking, a lot of hiking in my life. So I know what a day's journey is. And they're walking along, and all of a sudden, Mary got that feeling there's something not right. I don't know how you moms do it. Every mom knows how to do it. Oh, where's the kids? What's going on? Where are they? And my wife says, where are the boys at? I said, who cares? You know, no, there's something they'll find their way back, okay? No, somebody took them. Well, guess what? They'll pay us to take them off their hands, okay? And we don't worry, but Mary, that sixth sense she has, all of a sudden realized something was missing. So she began to ask the relatives who knew Jesus, have you seen Jesus? No, we haven't seen Jesus. Have you seen Jesus? No. And the more she got the no answer, the more anxious she got. Now, then she went to people who knew them, acquaintance, and she started, have you seen Jesus? Then she starts talking to strangers. Have you seen Jesus? He's about this high, wears a white robe, glows in the dark. Have you seen this Jesus? And they kept no. And all of a sudden they realized Jesus is not with them. So then they had to spend the night and wait to go back to Jerusalem. And I don't know, what did you think Mary did all night long? Do you think she worried? Do you think she fretted? I think Mary prayed, I don't know how do you pray that prayer, Dear God, I lost the Savior of the world. What, Mary? What? What? Mary, what's going on, And so the next morning they have to get up and go back. Now, how far back do they have to go? A day's journey walk. So they're walking all the way back to Jerusalem. I think Mary, with each step, think every child in the distance, Jesus, there is no. And what is Joseph thinking all the way back? He's thinking, when I get my hand on that boy, he's not going to sit down for a week, And they finally get to Jerusalem, and the scripture says when they not found him, they returned to Jerusalem looking for him. Then after 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the teachers, both listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and answer. But when they saw him, when Mary and Joseph saw him, his mother said to him, and I wish I could do this like a Jewish mother. I just don't do a good Jewish mother accent. Yahweh, son. And she ripped into Jesus. Why have you treated this way? Behold, we've been anxious. We've been worried to death. We've been looking for you night and day and day and night and now. And they ripped into Jesus. And he said, your father and I have been actually looking for you. And Jesus said to them, why? Why were you looking for me? Now, I don't know about you, but my mom and dad had spent 3 days looking for me all across the city. And they found me after 3 days, and they ripped into me and they said, where have you been? And I go, why were you looking for me? Did you not know where I was? Well, I'm going to tell you, I would probably be in the next county. My eyes would be swollen. And I couldn't see my father till the swelling went down this eye, and I could see him. So here's Jesus, and we want our children to be like Jesus. Yet here's Jesus dumped his parents. He stayed behind in Jerusalem and did not tell his mom and dad he was doing it. After 3 days, they finally found him, and he questioned them, why were you looking for me? Now, why wasn't that a sin? Because this is a key to understanding your children's life and where they are. So a lot of people say, well, it was Mary and Joseph. They weren't very good parents. If Mary and Joseph, okay, had just been better parents, they would kept their eyes and attention on Jesus, and he would not stay behind in Jerusalem. Okay, and other people said, well, Jesus is perfect, so whatever he does, he can't sin. So if he kicks the dog or the cat and dog probably deserves it. Okay, but this is not true. The reason it wasn't a sin is because what it says in verse 42. When he became 12, he went there to the custom, because according to custom of the feast, he had to go to the feast of the Passover. Because at 12, Jesus was what? He was an adult. See, in the Jewish faith, there are two things. There is a child, and then his childhood is closed down, and there's a thing called a rite of passage that closes that childhood down, and from the next day on, he is adult, and he lives and acts as adult. In fact, they don't have juvenile court in Israel. You're either the child or the adult. So what happened? Jesus is now going to Jerusalem as an adult. As an adult, can he stay on his own? Yes, he can. Might be some miscommunication here, but it was not a sin. Jesus was an adult. So the question that your child wants and looking for, and the number one thing they want to do, and ever since they're 3 years old, they've been trying to find out, when do I become an adult? When? They want to know when you become an adult. And so we have to go through this whole thing. Do you become adult when you're 16? Do you become adult when you're 13? Do you become adult when you're 20 years old or 21, And the answer is, in the United States, in our culture, we have no clue when you become an adult. Every child wants to become do you know every child does not want to become a child, they want to become an adult. I remember working on an old car, and Caleb, my 5-year-old, came slid beside me. He said, Dad, can I help you? And I was working on the transmission. And when he said, can I help you? What was he asking? Can you invite me into your adult world and help me become a man? Even at 5 years old. My grandsons at 3 and 4 year old wants to help Poppy. They want to come and help me nail something. They want to come mow the yard. In fact, I was babysitting him the day before, and all of a sudden here comes a 6-year-old pushing the lawnmower out and said he's going to mow the lawn. He don't even know how to start it, but guess what? He wanted to take on adult work. So what happened is every child growing up, in fact, let me prove it to you. I bet every one of you ladies at a very early age tried on your mom's high heels. You probably tried on your mom's high heel, and you tried on her dress, and you walked around trying to be what? Grown up. All your games you played, every little doll, guess what? It's all about you being the grown up. So I have a friend of mine named Shelly, and she came in her 4-year-old daughter into the bathroom with her 4-year-old daughter, and found her daughter sitting on the bathtub with her leg up on the side of the bathtub with a razor in her hand. She's going to shave her legs. She wanted to be like mommy, okay? Every boy wants to help dad or go hunting with dad, or they want to do sports like dad. And so there's this desire in us, and Jeremiah 6:16 says it is put there by God. Every child wants to grow up and become an adult. But how do you do that in the United States? I go to Israel, and they have a rite of passage. They have a bar mitzvah, a bar mitzvah. I spent most of my adult life working in third world countries off the grid. I've been living in the country of Panama way back in what's called the Darien jungle, working with the Kunas and the Chicos and the Waimis. And so I work in these very primitive tribe. And you know what every primitive tribe has for their child? They have a rite of passage. Every girl knows when she becomes a woman. There's no question about it. And every boy knows when he becomes a man. There's a rite of passage, a ritual they go through, and they leave their childhood, and within the next moment, they're sitting with the warriors, sitting with the tribe, and they're men. There's no hesitation or confusion about where you are in your life. Because God only created two things. He created either child or adult. I thought as a child, spoke as a child, and I put away childish things, and I became a what? A teenager? No, an adult. So what we have done in America is cross these two things over, okay? So we no longer rite of passage. We have this two circles cross over, and we call that adolescence. And so all of a sudden, we used to be the teenage years, 13, 18 years of age, you're an adolescent. But I'm going to tell you that that is unbiblical. Jesus never created adolescents, okay? In fact, we don't even know what to do with them, okay? Half of them we want to tell them to grow up. The other half we want to tell them to get lost. We don't know what to do because it's unbiblical. And I know Jesus was never a teenager. Do you know that? The word teenager was coined in 1941 by Popular Science magazine on April the 1st. On April the 1st, they created a hyphen word, teen-ager. 1941. It was not in a book or a title till 1948. I was born in 1951. Now you're probably doing the math now. How old is he? 30 to 30? Okay, I'm not telling you, you can figure it out. But what happened is this, is that when I was growing up in church, we were never called teenager. We were called the intermediate department. And that when we went to college, we were the Baptist Young People Union, but there was no such thing as teenagers. And it's unbiblical to have teenagers. You need to close their childhood down. Now, what happens is this. Since your child don't know when they become adult, they're going to try to prove to you or show you and try to win the award of being an adult. I want you to give me the title adult. So what happened is little Johnny. Let's take an imaginary character, Johnny. Johnny is, let's say, third grade, and he's on the playground, and he wants to be like a man. So what he does, he starts cussing like his dad. Oh, man, he lets out the biggest, nastiest word you ever said, and he's proud of it because he's using dad's language. He gets called to the principal's office and get in trouble, and he's suspended for a day or so, and he's told not to do that. But he wants to be a man. So what he does, he gets to junior high. You ever seen little Johnny in junior high? He takes up smoking. I mean, ever seen him laying out against the building? He's about 6'1", weighs 35 pounds, and got a belt buckle bigger than his head on, and he's smoking out there. And look at me, I'm a man now, you know. I'm in junior high, but I'm a man. His little girlfriend, she's smoking too, you know. She has her bra on backwards, but it fits better. And oh, can I say that? Anyway, she's there, you know, smoking too. And all they're trying to do is what? They want somebody to come along and close down their childhood and move them into adulthood. Then they get to high school, they take up drinking. That's the adult activity. Then sex. And what happened is they keep on going on, and they can't find someone to close down their childhood and move them into becoming an adult. So what happened is they have found a way. Every child will create his own rite of passage. If you as a parent don't close their childhood down and give them a rite of passage. Well, so what is this generation? Do you know, anybody know what the generation, this generation shows one thing as a rite of passage, and it's tattoos. Tattoo has become the mark of them moving adulthood. See, when you're a child, you can't write on your skin. I remember my mom, oh, she was a spitter. If I wrote on my skin, I didn't go 30 hours of labor for you to mark up your skin like that. You know, she'd spit on it. But this generation said, hey, look, I'm the master of my own skin. I don't have any tattoo. I guess I could draw one on there, but look at me. I'm an adult now. I'm an adult now. Now that tattoo's a little one on the back, you know, a tramp stamp, or a little on the leg, or a little butterfly over here, or something like that, you know. But it's their mark of being adult. And the number one thing that's missing in your child's life is that they don't know when and have a clear-cut idea when their childhood ends and their adulthood starts. Does that make sense to you? That makes sense to you? Jesus was never a teenager because teenager was not created until 1941. So the first thing that's missing in your child's life is a rite of passage. The second thing that's missing in their life is a significant task. Now, a significant task is described if you don't do it, a large number of people will suffer. So if you remember the Waltons, the John Boy TV show, the Walton, John Boy had to plant the corn. If he didn't plant the corn, guess what? His family would have what? Starved. And if Mary Ellen didn't milk the cow would dry up. Every child had a job that if they didn't do it, their family would suffer. Now, what is it in your family that your child does that if they don't do it, they will suffer? Take out the dog, food, or we don't have any. Also, we no longer have a rite of passage. We no longer have significant tasks.
Wait to wait for Granny. Wait right there. Cars are coming.
Cars are coming? Anyway, so what happened is that we have all of a sudden, we have Jesus here at 12 years old. He had to be in his father's house. If he didn't be in his father's house, he would have sinned. If Jesus would sin, there'd been no Savior, and the whole world would die and gone to hell without a loving God. Jesus was obedient to his Father. He had a significant task. In fact, he knew that. I come to do this. I'm on my way to the cross. Everything Jesus did was according to a significant task. So what we have to do is provide for our children a rite of passage, a significant task. I worked for a number of years with the chaplain of the Tulsa Police Department with the gang division. You know what gangs do? They give every child a what? Every man, every woman, you rite a passage, you join the gang, and they have a significant task. You have to take care of this turf or do this here. They provide the two things missing. So your children will always gravitate to anything that gives them a rite of passage, significant task. And what's sad is the church does not do that. We do not give our children a rite of passage nor a significant task. And yet we have the best of significant tasks. That's why I do. I take students on a rite of passage journey. I close down their childhood, and then we move them into a responsible adult. We got kids 14-year-old that can take you around the world, catch the train and go to foreign countries. You know, they're paying a $10,000 hotel bill. They are when you put them in front of a significant task, they will always rise up because it makes them feel like they have worth and value. So what I want to do is give you a couple little help on a significant task. For instance, I believe that every child, by the time they're 8 years old, should do their own laundry. That's just that their responsibility to do the laundry. Okay, I think children should be able to, take care. Give you an example. My son, when he was 9 years old, Jeremiah, my son, 9 years old, he was in charge of paying the electric bill. We used to get the paper bill. We still do for some of our children. Okay, you can still have a bill sent to your house. But every time the bill came in for electricity, I put in a little box, okay, a little basket like this, and he would get it, and he'd have to fill out the check. He had to write into the check book there, deduct it down, and did the math on it. Then on Friday night, we'd have a meeting, and I would sign the check. He would present me the electrical bill. And I'm going to tell you that he would, 9 years old, he thought that was a big deal. What do you do your house? Well, I'm in charge of the electricity at our house, and we use 90 kilowatts this year. And he would go on all kinds of stuff, And I even challenged him. I said, if you can lower our electricity bill, I will give you the difference what was last year and this year. You can make cash. Well, I'm going to tell you, I created a monster. Who turned on this light here? Who left the light on? Do you know when you leave the room, you flip a switch, okay? On and off. It's easy to do. And he got our electrical bill down and made money off of it. And it was his significant task. My other son his significant task was to take care of the car, maintenance of the car. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen the book that your car comes with, but you're supposed to do something with your car every 30 minutes. You're supposed to check the transmission fluid, oil, the gas, and the blinker light fluid. That you got to check the blinker light fluid every week, and all that kind of stuff. And so at 9 years old, I gave him the keys to the car. He went out, turned on the odometer. He checked the mileage, and he'd come back and give a report. We have 300 miles to go before we need to rotate the tires, or we need to change the oil in a couple of weeks. And he would keep up the maintenance of the car. And I'm going to tell you, he thought that was really cool. What I did not know was giving those two little significant tasks changed my boy's attitude on being responsible and financial. My oldest son, he graduated college, paid cash for college. He paid cash for his wedding. In fact, when he got married, he said, Dad, I'm going to get married on August the 2nd. I said, you can't do that. I'm not home from the mission field yet. He said, that's why I'm getting married. I said, why? He said, that's the first day of off-season rates in Florida. So he was doing his whole wedding based upon off-season rates, and they become financially responsible. And to this day, that's what I want, a responsible young man to grow up. And you all want that, don't you? You don't want to pay your kids bills for the rest of your life. So use those significant tasks to teach them those things. So the rite of passage, number one, that we need to do. The second one is significant tasks. The greatest thing that teach your children that is send them on a real mission trip that provides these things here. And that's the organization I work for, All-Star Ministry, AWSTAR. You can go online and look that up. But we take students on a rite of passage trip, teaching them skills and the principles I'm talking about, and see them grow up and take on the adulthood that they need to be. Well, the next thing that's missed is logical consequences. Now, if I can get your children to clean up the bedroom once for all and you never have to hassle with it again, would it be worth your hour tonight to be here? Would it be? Okay, oh, somebody got 3 hands, man. That's amazing, you know. Well, logical consequences. You know, God told Adam and Eve, eat the tree, they would surely what? They would die. So God, when he saw Adam and Eve ate the tree, what did God say to Adam and Eve? How many times I've told you? I've told you once, I told you 1,000 times, I told you over and over and over again not to eat that tree. Is that what God said? No. They ate, they died. We as parents, we have lost how to give our children logical consequences. I had a parent call me the other day from Oklahoma Baptist University and says, I don't know what to do. I said, ma'am, what's the matter? She says, well, I keep on putting money in his checking account. He keeps on spending it. He calls me and says, I need more money. I keep on putting in. And he says, he keeps on spending, keep on spending. What should I do? I said, quit putting it in. You know, if you got X amount of dollars, you need to learn to live within that. You have to learn logical consequences. Yes, your car will be repossessed. I'd rather have a repossessed car than have a marriage that goes down or a financial crisis as a businessman because they didn't learn the principle of logical consequences. So to teach our children values, we have to teach them logical consequences. So I'm going to give you one or two of those real quick here. And this one is, I'm going to tell you, it works every time. I've been doing this for many years. The first one is called value and non-valuable. Okay, valuable and non-valuable. Now, you all have valuable stuff at your house, don't you? You're probably your wedding ring. Show me your wedding ring. Your wedding ring is valuable. Yeah. And so what do? Do you just take it and leave it in the kid's toy box? No, you take care of it because it has value to it. Now, you have a Kleenex or a piece of paper, guess what? You know, this is not valuable, okay? You can throw it away. So what we do is I say to my children, I want to sit down and have a meeting. We have valuable things in our lives. We have non-valuable. And you have valuable things in your room, and I have non-valuable. You have non-valuable things in your room. So how do I know what's non-valuable? I said, when I come to your room and you have thrown something on the floor, you've thrown a toy on the floor or some clothes on the floor, you have deemed it non-valuable. And guess what we do with non-valuable stuff? No, we don't throw them away. What we do is we redeem them. So we take non-valuable things, and like you got a shirt and a coat on the floor that you have deemed non-valuable because you didn't take care of it. We're going to take it to Goodwill and give it away. You're going to give it away. You're going to give it to Goodwill. So they signed a contract, and I said, you know, anything I found on the floor, you deem non-valuable, be a responsible Christian, we're going to take it to Goodwill. Well, a couple of days later, I came in and I saw a brand new Nintendo game laying on the floor. They had it scattered everywhere. I mean, you can walk through the room. They had controllers and game cartridges like that. I said, boys, come here. I said, guess what I found? They go, what? What did you find, Dad? I found a non-valuable Nintendo game. And you know what we do with non-valuable stuff? We need to collect it up and take it to Goodwill. because someone there will take it and they'll make it valuable again. Oh, look what we found in Goodwill, you know. And but dad, please, dad. I said, no, pick it up. So we get in the car, and I can't even begin to describe the four little fingers over the edge of the seat. Please, dad, one more chance, please, dad, one more chance, please, dad, please, dad. We'll never do it again, dad, please, you know. And then we go into Goodwill, and there was a death march. No, dad, please, dad, no, we're carrying this Nintendo game in, and you know, they're all crying, and it was sad. And we gave it away. Best $154 I've ever spent in my life. Because they now know what? There are what? Logical consequences. That's what life is made up of. If you accept Jesus, you get eternal life. You don't, you reject Jesus, the logical consequences is separation from him. The whole world is based upon, if you don't show up for work, guess what? You get fired. Logical consequences. You get a speeding ticket, logical consequences. So when are they going to learn logical consequences? Well, I'm going to tell you there's a downside to that. I had come home. I went to JCPenney and bought a brand new suit coat. I think I paid like $200 for it. It was a nice suit coat. I didn't know JCPenney had that nice a suit coat, but I came home. I'm walking in the house and my phone rang. It was my pastor. He said, Walker, can you get to the hospital quick as you can? A couple in our church was in a major accident. We don't know if they're alive or not. Can you beat the ambulance at the hospital? I opened the door and there's a couch and I just threw my coat on the couch, closed the door, ran the car and went to the hospital. Came home later that evening. I walked in and both my sons were at the door. Dad's home. Oh, dad's home. And I said, oh, man, this is a great way. Dad, guess what we found? I said, what? A non-valuable suit coat. You can't believe it, Dad. We found a non-valuable suit coat just thrown on the couch there. And Dad, since we're believers, can you drive us Goodwill? So I'm driving to Goodwill. Son, but you don't understand. It was an emergency. It was a hospital, things like that. You know, I was trying to explain to him. Then I walked into Goodwill and gave away my brand new suit coat. I tell you what, I was crying now. I took them home, dropped them off. I went back to Goodwill and bought it back. That's the logical consequences. See, we got to teach our kids logical consequences, or they don't. And there's a whole bunch of things that we can teach you on that, and everything from allowances, how you do that, you know, and if they run out, you know, you give them $5 and run out by Monday, well, that's the logical consequences. You don't get any more money till the next Monday. So the whole world needs, but we contract for these things here. So the number one thing missing is a rite of passage. The second thing missing is a significant task. And the third thing is logical consequences. Are you still hanging with me so far? Are we still together, okay? The last one is grace. This generation is a lack of grace, okay? These are what I begin to discover as I begin to search and find out why my kids weren't being transformed as they went from a children's department through to college, and they still had the same problem, the same thing, is because they did not have grace. See, in the old days, Grandma and Grandpa lived with you. Probably many of you grew up to somebody that way. You know, I've spent a lot of time, supposed to be in Mexico recently, and do a rite of passage conference there in Piedras Negras, and I spent 40 some years, and there's still a lot of families that have Grandma and Grandpa that lives in a family there, and Mom and Dad are law, and Grandma and Grandpa are grace. If you remember the Waltons, Mom and Dad, they were getting on John Boy all the time, thumping him on the head, and go out and sit on the porch and cry, and out come Grandma and sit down beside him and remind him he was a person of worth and value. But guess what happened today? Grandma and Grandpa don't live near us. They sold the farm, they bought a Winnebago, and they're in Las Vegas right now, gambling away our inheritance, you know. And they don't want to be grandparents anymore. I hear that all the time. I've done my job, I raised my children, and I don't want to be grandparents. You know? But I'm going to tell you, grandparents, not having grandparents is the downfall of America, because grandparents is what puts grace into children. And grace helps you overcome all the mistakes in your life. Well, let me give you an example here. You know, grace is put into you basically 4 different ways. When you put grace into a person, number one, you look them eye to eye when you talk to them, all right? It's hard to do these days, look somebody eye to eye, but you sit down and you look them eye to eye. Second thing is you use their name, okay? And so I would sit down with Stephanie and say, Stephanie, I really admire you and appreciate you because of you putting together the Zoom conference to help parents out. And because of your effort, I know many lives are going to be feeling better today when they go to bed. So thank you for doing that. So what happened, you would look them in the eye, you would use their name. The third thing, you use what's called a Storge tone. S-T-O-R-G-E. It's Storge. Storge is a Greek word that is used in the scripture, but it's always a compound word. Brotherly Storge. It's what happens. It's the love that moms put in the womb before a child is born. Okay. Now, I'm not a mother, but I've been around a lot of women, and my wife who's had children. Guess what you do when you get pregnant? You start rubbing your stomach and talking to it, don't you? I mean, I know I probably look like I'm pregnant if I stood up, but you know what? You rub your stomach and you start, oh, your little baby, you're going to be so cute. How many ladies have done that when you were pregnant, you know? Yeah, you know, and you use a certain tone. It's the tone called Storge. It's given by God to women to have that voice that speaks to children. And you say, oh, you're going to be the greatest little boy ever, the greatest little girl. You're going to be so handsome. I can't wait to meet you. And you use that story. I can't do it very well, okay? But that's what you do. You use the Storge tone. And so when you put grace into a person, you drop to the, uh, I'm going to tell you, I'm not very good with Storge. Here's the baby. Oh, hi, baby. How you doing? Okay, I'm your dad. All right. See you later. I don't do that Storge. But you know what? You got to learn how, men, we have to learn how to speak Storge tone into our children. So number one, look in the eye. Number two, use their name. Use a third thing, use a Storge tone. And number four, use the most important word. You know what the most important word to a human being is? Y'all gonna think love, don't you? Yeah, love. It's not the most important word. The most important word is because. Now, Carly, I see you. Carly, wave at me for a second, okay? Can you? Okay, there she is. Now, Carly, what'd you like better? You like somebody going, Carly, you're beautiful. You're pretty. Or Carly, do you like somebody say to you, you're beautiful because I love the way that you got your hair pulled back and your eyes come out and I can see you speaking to me through your eyes. It's so beautiful. Now, I use the word because, or you're a good mom. You're a really good mom. Or you're a good mom because you took an hour out of your night to learn more about what's missing in a child's life today, and you are working hard at being a good mom, and I appreciate you for that. See, the word because identifies what goes into you. It's the cha-chink sound. It's the deposit, okay? So what happened is Marinos, is S. Marinos there? Is that a couple right below Carly and my street? There they are, okay? Now, I don't know what your first name is, sir, but I'm going to tell you something. Look in your wife's eye and tell her, I love you because. And you tell her all the reason because. I guarantee you'll have a good night tonight, okay? Women we receive these things here, okay? Hey, wait till this is over, okay? And then what happened is and do I have to do it all the time? I say to my sons, I have to use the because word 51% of the time. You don't have to do it all the time. A mother came to me and said, I want you to meet my son, Johnny. Johnny's a good boy. I said, ma'am, can you tell me one thing that makes Johnny a good boy? And I saw Johnny go, huh? And he looked at his mom. He did not know why he was a good boy. She said, well, he's a good boy because he helps his brother get ready for school every morning before the bus comes. I said, Johnny, that's very significant what you do. And I admire you because you take on adult responsibility at such a young age. You know, Johnny, he just stood up like this and his shadow was bigger than he was. It's just, your children need grace. And you have to put grace into them. Because most of the time go, how come you never? Why don't you ever? Why don't you do this? How come you don't do your homework? Why blah, 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 blah. You know, that don't you? And what we use is called withdrawals. And you make more withdrawals out of your child than you do deposits of grace, they're going to rebel. All rebellion is a lack of grace deposits. Now, I know that because my son, Caleb, who I talk about, went on a journey. He ran away from home. He got in trouble with the law, spent time in jail. And I said, what am I going to do with you? He said, you tell me, you wrote the book. So I know what it is to have a child go astray. And I begin every day. He lost his driver's license. I had to take him to work, pick him up from work. And And I'd get in, I said, I admire you, bud, because I appreciate you because, and I hear, he worked at Blockbuster back then. He says, I said, people tell me you're the most knowledgeable person on genres and directors of anybody at Blockbuster. And just like that. And for a year and a half, I just kept on putting grace, grace, grace into him. And all of a sudden one day there was a knock at the door. I opened the door, Caleb was standing there and said, Dad, I sinned against you. I've come to submit myself to underneath your authority. You know what my son Caleb does today? He's a pastor and he is apologetics. He debates. In fact, he's had 2 debates recently with the top 2 atheists in America. They invited him to Salt Lake City to debate the second highest apologetics for the Mormon Tabernacle. And he was so good that they closed the debate down halfway through it because they had no corner and they could not. So guess what? Putting grace into your children will turn around. It takes time, it takes patience, but I tell you, the problem is they have so much negative in their life and withdrawals. My bank does the same thing, you know? My bank says if I make more withdrawal than I do deposits, I'm going to experience logical consequences. And that's what we have. So your children. So 4 things, and we'll get question and answer. Number 1, they need to write a passage. They need to know when their childhood is going to close. We don't enter them into teenage years. We want to move them to become adults, okay? They don't go from child to teenager. They go from childhood to adulthood, and they need that step into that. Second thing is they need a significant task in their house and home where you see them as being a partner with you in the house. And the third thing they need is logical consequences. And the last thing they need is grace put into them. Now, grace also, let me tell you one more thing. We have brought people into our home, Lady Lucille Hodges. My mom passed away many, many years ago when my children were young. And we had her come to, she had no grandchildren lived here. We asked her to be our grandmother. She went to every game, every school event. She was at every birthday party. She became the grace. So even surround your kids with mature senior adults that can put grace into your children. It will make a difference. And also, they'll pay your child way through college. I didn't know that was a benefit, but Lucille came to me and says, I need to talk to you. I said, you know, Jeremiah is my grandson. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, I don't want to embarrass you, but can I help him with his college expenses? I said, let me pray about it. Okay. And she did. So that's what it's all about. Now, let's go to question and answer. Are we going to put it up on the Zoom chat or do it live, loud?
We have a couple. If y'all want to start putting your question and answers in the chat, we have a couple to get us started. So should we pay our kids to do chores?
Should we pay our kids to do chores? No. There are things that you do that allows you to sit at the table. In other words, you have a responsibility. But what I do is I pay my kids, for instance, I give each of my kids like, now I'm talking about they're now 40, but when they were 13 years old, I'd give them $100 for clothes for school each semester. You know, they'd get $100 to buy clothes. Now, it might be a different amount now, but the deal was that if they could spend less than $100 buying their clothes, they get to keep the change on it. So my son said, Dad, you know, we need to get some jeans, and can you take us to that place that has non-valuable stuff, you know? And they start buying their clothes at Goodwill and stuff. And my son, Caleb, he wanted a designer jeans with the holes in it, you know, and we'll pay like $75 for one pair of jeans that was all ripped up. I said, hey, just go to that place, Goodwill, and I can rip them up for you. No, Dad, you know. And I said, if you wear that jeans, buy those jeans, you have to wear them every day for the whole semester because you outgrown all the rest of your clothes. That's the logical consequences. So my kids made money other ways than beside just allowance. I'll give you an example. When I was growing up, I grew up on a farm. We had a city kid came to our house, and we went out before breakfast, and we milked the cows, and we fed the pigs, and we came back to breakfast. And we called them chores. You know what chores are, you know, on the farm? Anyway, we had chores. We came back in, and the city kid told my dad, whoo, that was a lot of work. My dad says, no, That's not work. That's chores. You do your chores so you have the right to sit at the dinner table and to eat and to enjoy a nice bedroom and air conditioning and all that kind of stuff. But you had responsibility in our family, and then there's other ways for you to earn money. And so we did. That's the way I grew up, was that I did not get allowance for what should be a normal part of just taking care of stuff. I didn't get paid for making my bed or doing this, but I made money other ways. Okay.
That's awesome. Those are good. That's a great question. Okay, we have another really good question. What's an appropriate age for rite of passage?
No later than 13.
And what are some examples of rite of passage?
Well, my favorite one is going on a, we take our students that haven't a pass for anywhere from 30 to 60 days into a foreign country where we're the adults. Now, with right now, the season we're at, we can't do that. But there are a lot of things. It has to be the testing, and you can't go with them, okay? A rite of passage, every culture that has a rite of passage, a boy goes, like the Mandikas, the boy goes out in the wood and he has to capture an animal, and survive on his own for 3 days, then he comes back. In the Kunas, a young boy at 13, 14 has to build his own house. And when he builds his own house, then he gets a wife. So there's something they have to do to testing. Because just say, hey, you're an adult now, that doesn't do anything for them. What you have to say, you have to do something that requires you to be totally adult in doing it. And when you accomplish that on your own, then we can recognize you as being an adult. And so there's things like, volunteering in hospitals, and there's just a number of things out there. But the number one thing is, to me, is sending them on a rite of passage mission trip.
That's awesome.
So we said 13 has been the best age for us. I've taken 13,000 students. They just did a survey, Market Whetstones out of Chicago, about the students I've taken 10, 20 years ago. And they found out that parents said 98% of the parents said it was the best thing that ever happened to their child was to go on a rite of passage trip. 98%. I said, what happened to the other 2%? They said, well, Jesus made a bigger difference in their lives. I said, well, I'll go with that, okay? So we believe 13, 14 years old is, you need, to do a rite of passage.
What are some examples of tasks that the early elementary and preschoolers could do to prepare them for that rite of passage?
Well, first of all, there is what we call simulator task. A simulator task is a task that really is not a significant task, but it gives you the skills for a significant task. Like a little child he can take stuff from the countertop to the table we need you, if they don't do their job, then you sit down at the table without any food. We had, I'll give you an example. I had a youth group, and this kid was charged of silverware. He didn't bring the silverware. So our youth group came together, and guess what we did? We ate with our fingers because one kid did not do his significant task. Now, is it really a significant task? No, but it's a simulator task. And so we didn't let him go back and get those forks and spoons and knives. We ate everything. Do you know what? That kid never forgot again to bring the silverware to the table. So things like that, you can do, or, like checking the gas on the car. Guys, they want to stick that key in that ignition, teach them how to do that, and say, hey, we're getting ready to go somewhere, and when we got a quarter of a tank, we probably need to get some gas, Dad. So little things like that are simulator tasks, but pretty soon they move into significant tasks.
That's perfect. Awesome. We have a question about your website and the mission trip, and they would like more information about that website and the mission trip.
Okay. It's AWESTAR, all-star, AWESTAR.org, O-R-G.
Awesome.
Sign up there, get information on it and stuff like that. So all-star.
So you're not taking any trips now, but maybe, hopefully.
Well, right now we're on hold. What we're trying to do is do maybe a couple 1-week trips here in Oklahoma, where they'll get an introduction to it. And again, every trip we do has rite of passage elements in it. So, give you an example. we were in Budapest and had a guy named Daniel. Daniel plays the part of Jesus. We do what's called chronological Bible storying, and he does the part, and we do it as knights and good knights and evil knights, and the evil knight kills the son, and then he's crucified. But anyway, Daniel was sick. And I said, Daniel, you need to stay back. You're running a fever. He said, Walker, I raised money up. I came 5,000 miles to tell these people about Jesus. I need to go out there, no matter how much I don't feel well, but I need to go out there. And they were crucifying him on the cross, and he started throwing up on himself. And the crowd, and they said, why didn't the boy stop? I said, ask him. And he turned around and he said, I came this way to tell you about Jesus. It was his significant task. If he didn't do it, a large number of people will suffer. And so, it really teaches them. And then all of a sudden they step into adulthood in their spiritual life on these trips. Okay.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Guys, if you could all take a second and unmute. And we're going to give Dr. Moore a big champion for us. Thank you for all of his wisdom and all of his sharing. So thank you, Dr. Moore.
Just call me Walker, okay?
Thank you.
And if you want to know more, write a Passage Parenting. You can get it at walkermore.org, or go on to Amazon or anywhere else and get it. And there's a workbook to go with it. And I hope one of these days I come in person. We can really take like 4 hours and help you with your family, to teach you and walk you through many more steps on how to put these things together in your family's life. But if you just do one of these things, it'll make a big difference in your family's life. God bless you. Oh, I need to tell you one more thing. I was talking to God, and I said, God, my children's messed up. I've done everything I can, and my children messed up. And God says, I know, I had the same thing. I made a great garden for them. I put them in a great place, and they chose to do wrong. And I realized that God understood me when I was a failure as a parent, because he experienced the same thing with his children. So you're not alone in this, and God does understand.
That is
Good
such
night.
a
God
good
bless you
word.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie, for having me. Bye, Chris and Louise.
Thank you.
Laura,
Thank you
Michael.
so much. Parents, thank you so much for joining us today. I don't know about you, but I learned a ton, and I can't wait to put it into practice this week. Join us next week as we hear from Dr. Jonathan Williams, who's going to teach us the 2 lists every family should be making. See you next week.